Microsoft didn't want to make Rise of Rome. 1997's Age of Empires was a pretty significant hit right from the start. Sales figures from the time generally put it in the top 10 within its first couple of months, and in total, it sold 178,000 copies in its first year. And it earned Ensemble Studios a cool $8 million in profit. While it may not seem groundbreaking in today's billion-dollar blockbuster games era, for the time, those were incredible numbers, especially carrying the 650,000 copies that were shipped globally, making Age of Empires the most successful real-time strategy game history has ever seen up to that point. Which is why it's shocking that Microsoft wasn't interested in capitalizing on its success with expansion packs. You see, there's this guy called Sandy Peterson, who was a designer on all of the Age of Empires games. I actually recently made a more extensive video on his rather storied career. Sandy actually didn't do a lot of work for the first Age of Empires game, as he was working on another project called Sorceress, which never actually came out. Ensemble and Microsoft were planning on making Age of Empires sequels, and they were pulling people off of Sorceress's team to make Age of Empires 2, which ultimately whittled Sorceress down to a virtual skeleton crew. Seeing as Sorceress was kind of doomed at that point, Sandy eventually asked the bosses if he could rework what they had into an expansion for Age of Empires 1. According to Sandy, Microsoft hated this idea and told Sandy and his team, and I quote, "Expansions are not money makers." However, Microsoft didn't own Ensemble at the time, so Sandy's boss eventually let him and his team go to town. They eventually cobbled together Rise of Rome, which wasn't just a success, it was a revolutionary success. The collector's edition of Age of Empires, which contains the Rise of Rome, sold over 1 million copies globally. In January of 1999, it was second to only Microsoft's Flight Sim in PC game sales. Ensemble's co-founder, Tony Goodman, called it the most profitable game Microsoft ever published. It's kind of crazy how successful the Rise of Rome truly was, especially considering the fact that